Okay, we are going to see some of the options like this one, right? So what is, if you can go to EC2 console, okay, so we are going to see about what is instance types will be there. Instance types is that, so we have a T2.micro, T2.medium, T2.large, so T2.nano, okay, X large, okay, so CS5 X large and all these X4 X large. So all these things kind of a, options will be there. What is T? What is like T2, 3, T2 dot, like C5 and it's kind of a C types, right? C types, and then you can also go down and for a different types. We have, see here a lot of instances are there. So this is Z type, Z, Z1, Z2. Okay, so these are all the Z kind of categories. Okay, and also we can just also choose some kind of a different types of instances also. Okay, so it's came all the way long, right? So it's kind of a C, T kind of a thing. So there are different types of instance types will be there here. Okay, this is R type. Okay, so what is R type, and then what is T type? What is, so what is kind of a Z type and all these things, So these are all the things it can be asked you in the internet in the exams. So if you can go for instance types, right? Instance types in the Google. Okay, so if you can, I also have a document. Okay, instance. Okay, so compute is to instance types. If you can go over here, there are different types of instance is there. We can also document it, but the instance will be keep on changing every now and then. Okay, so you can just see you have M7, M7, and so these are all kind of a, so general purpose. What is general purpose? I can come back to you what is general purpose and what is kind of a different types of instances and all these things. Okay, so what is the use? For example, you are creating some kind of your application. Okay, so you're doing college project. Okay, everybody done your college project in your classes, right? I'll take a class. You can sit. Okay. So I'm going to take about the instance types, right? Okay. So here's the T2.micro and all these things are there. Okay. So this is the instance types. We have so many instance types, right? So I'm going to take a class on instance types. What are the different types of instance available for our application? You can choose anything. Okay. So what is the difference between choosing this instance, then choosing the T2.micro instance? What is the difference? I can also choose any other instance, right? I can just choose T2.small, something like that. What is the difference? Yeah, so the difference, what you can see, you can compare with one another instance. Okay, so T2.nano, it has a 1 vCPU, 0.5 GB of memory. Okay, so if you can go down, okay, all the way down, CX5 large, 96 vCPU. What is CPU? Okay, so for example, if you have a CPUs, right, monitor and CPU, this is the CPU. Okay, so if you have that CPU, that is kind of a one CPU. Okay, we have, so Amazon will give us only one CPU will be given to us. Now what I'm asking to Amazon is that, okay, I want 96 CPUs in my one machine. When I'm creating one server, it should attach 96 CPUs. Just imagine that how big the server is going to be. Okay, for that you have to pay more also for that. Okay, so that's the difference, right? And whenever you're choosing like T2.micro, T2.micro is the free instance. Okay, so it's kind of a free kind of an instance. So if you can go here, in your first year includes 750 hours of a T2.micro or T3.micro in regions which are available, instance. Usage of free AMIs per month, which means that, okay, so if you choose T2.micro, you can use 750 hours of continuous running of your instances. Okay, so it's not only for one machine, right? For example, I'm creating one machine for 1 hour now. Okay, deleted it. I'm creating another machine for next 1 hour. Now it's going to be considered as 2 hours is consumed. Out of 750 hours, I consumed 2 hours of the two instances. Okay, but if I can create only one instance, I'm running for 750 hours. That's also be calculated as a 750 hours. Okay, understand? Now if you can see, So it's general purpose. Okay, so general purpose means whenever you want to have M5 and T3 T2 dot micro, right? We have seen T2 dot micro, T3 dot micro, something like this. So these are all the instances of general purpose. Means it can be used for multiple purposes. If you are going for a college project, you want to write your applications, all these things you can, if you want to use any kind of instances, you can use for general purpose. Okay, this is general purpose ones. So here T2 nano, all these things are general purposes. Okay, so now it's a compute optimized. What is compute optimized? Whenever you see C7, okay, so these kind of a machines will have so much of compute power, which is, what is compute? What is compute? Compute means CPU. Okay, just imagine, just remember that whenever you're telling compute means that's going to be CPU. So if you can see this one, okay, C type is there. Okay, it has more CPUs will be there. You know, this C6A192 CPU will be there. Okay, so these many CPU items will be there in your application. Okay, that's called CPU intensive. For example, my application will consume, if you think that, so my application consume more CPU, okay, than the memory. Okay, so RAM is different and CPU is different, right? So you have a phone, okay, you have RAM, right? How much GB RAM you have? 8 GB, right? So you have in the CPU also there'll be different configurations, okay? One CPU, two CPU, something like that, okay? So that's kind of a compute optimized. Like, so if you can come again with RAM optimized, memory optimized, this kind of you can compare with the phone, right? Your phone, we have a 8 GB of, okay, 8 GB of RAM. If you want more, bigger, if you buy some kind of a latest iPhone 16, 15 or something like that, right? It has a more kind of a RAM. So that is the difference. That cost also will be more, right? So obviously, based on your performance, how much ever you're just creating, and based on that one, that cost also will be more. That's why we are having that. Okay, so the memory optimized. One second. Okay, that's the thing, So whenever you wanted to do some of the things, so some of them, if you want to come to more memory kind of a thing, you can use some kind of a R7 or is kind of a memory optimization. So it can have a more memory. It should have more RAM. Okay, so and X1 and all these things, right? So whenever you're seeing that kind of a X kind of a things, right? You can see, I think it was there in the last, right? So Z and X and see X kind of a thing, you can see that is a memory optimized. So what is memory? CPU will be less. See, memory will be 1536 GB of RAM. Then you see that how many games you can play with this one, right? So that is kind of a memory optimized. So now you can see the CPU optimized. I also mentioned with you, it has some more vCPUs. The CPUs will be more. So based on that, your CPUs will be working. Hey, what is this one? Right. All right. Now you can see the compute optimized, memory optimized. Then what is another thing is there? Memory optimized we have seen, right? So or whatever or, okay, or means RAM. You just think about that. R means RAM. These are the very important interview questions also. If you go for interview, okay, they will show you that, okay, can tell me some kind of a memory optimized instances. You have to tell that R7, R4. So any kind of instances start with the R is going to be a RAM, right? RAM related. So here you can see compute optimized. Compute means C. Most of the instances will start with C, compute. Okay, so memory means it's a RAM. That's why it's called as a RAM. Okay, don't ask me why it is X and all. I don't know. So they've named it like that. Okay, so you can just click on this one and see what is X. The Amazon X instance optimized for a enterprise class database in memory. So you can just go and read all these things. So accelerated computing. Accelerated computing is that in accelerated computing is an instance hardware accelerator. Hardware accelerator means it has a more kind of a, it has a more power. Okay, so it's kind of horse, right? We call it horsepower, sometimes, right? So this kind of the compute, that entire server itself is going to be having a more power. Accelerated computer means the process of performing a function such as the floating point number and calculations, graphic processing, And if you can see some kind of a bigger movies, right? If you want to create a bigger movie and where you have graphics and all, many things are included, you know. So that kind of things, it can have a more graphic cards, you know. So graphic cards, you know, right? The graphic cards were used for designing and all these things, you know. That will be used for that one. Okay, the storage optimized is very easy, right? What is storage optimized? It has a more storage. Okay, so now if you can see the instances, how much storage is there? Okay, I mean, it is not having a storage, right? So storage we can just give it below, you know. Storage configuration you can give it below. Okay, but if you choose any kind of instances which is kind of a i4, you know, so i3 gen, okay, so D, something like that, i3, you know. So if you choose this kind of options, you know, so here the CPUs and everything will be less, you know. So it has an internal storage will be more. Okay, it's kind of a storage optimized, you know, so it can have a more storage inside that one. Okay, so that is thing. And SPC, you know, high performance computing. This also, if you wanted to use kind of a if you wanted to go for a kind of a higher, you know, processing computing, for example, if you go for a rocket launching, all these things will be taking a lot of power, right? The rocket is launching, it should calculate so many, you know, the calculations, and then it should launch the this thing. So okay, instance features, right? So that's all. So these are the instance types are there, you know. So now I'm going to create one instance, okay, with the t2.micro. So this is how the name. Okay, so name, I'm going to create one instance with free eligible only. So these are all things you know, right, every day. So this kind of this class is going to be a kind of a theory class. Okay, now you can create a instances now with a basic thing. Okay, so now this is how you'll be choosing your instances. Okay, so please read about, go to Google and then read about this one. Okay, I'll ask after some time, ask Shweta to take one kind of a very small concept. Okay, so understand? Any questions? So you three, please create a. Okay, turn on the light.